I've got a shop project that I've been meaning to get to for almost a year now, and no, it's not this tractor. If you guys have been wondering why I haven't been working on the tractor project, it's because I'm waiting on parts that were back ordered and they should be in stock now. I'm gonna have to call the place and see if I can get them coming my way. But it's windy outside and I've already done all of my outside must-do chores today. So today, I want to start working on this other project that I've been putting off for a while. That's what's going on today on Farmertylerranch. What I've got here is a quick attach plate to a set of Titan pallet forks, and as you can see, this thing's been through some stuff. As we look closely, you can see that there are multiple cracks and bends and other issues that's going on with this plate. And I'm not exactly sure what happened to this. I got this from Jeremy at Split Creek Ranch, and all he really told me was he was using it in a way that he knew he shouldn't have been using it, and this is the result. Oddly, the forks to this thing are actually pretty straight and in good shape, but where they attach to the backing plate here and where the quick attach on the loader attaches to the plate, both have a lot of damage. So the plan is pretty simple. I'm just gonna redo some of the welds that failed, straighten the things that are bent, and then I'm gonna try to come in here and reinforce these weak points so that when I'm using this, I don't do the same thing to it. So the first thing that I'm gonna try to do here is to get this plate straightened out. And I know you guys probably can't tell on camera, but it's basically got a big bow in it. And if I was to just re-weld these fork pockets as they are now, the forks would end up like being pigeon-toed and pointing towards each other. So I need to make sure that these are as straight as I can get them so that when I put the forks on there, they're straight, which, you know, kind of matters when you're picking up a pallet. In order to do this, I think what I'm gonna have to do is cut these welds out where they're cracked, because right now the metal is sort of overlapping and it's gonna be almost impossible to get these pockets dropped back kind of where they need to be. So I'm gonna come in here with the cutoff wheel on the grinder and make myself a little bit of a gap so that when I attempt to straighten it, they have somewhere to go, basically. To me, it looks like they're not quite perfect yet, but we are a lot closer. Actually, this side looks pretty good. This side's got to tip back just a little bit more. The plate is bowed pretty severely right here, and I'm actually planning to weld a brace in here to straighten that out. And I'm wondering if maybe if I clamp that in right now, if that might fix that other side. So we're gonna give it a try. Things are looking pretty good here. I think this is as straight as I can get it with the clamps that I'm using. So I feel like I still need it to like pull out a little bit. And because I can't get it anymore with the clamps, what I'm gonna do is I'll weld these outsides first, and hopefully the heat from the weld will pull that a little bit. But it's pretty close how it is. If I weld it up and it stays just like it is now, that'll be fine. Well, that was a lot of welding, but I think this turned out pretty good. For those that are wondering, I was running an 1/8 inch 7018 rod at like 127 amps. It was I was playing between 125, 130, and really right in the middle felt the best. So this is probably overkill. I probably didn't need to run 2 passes on that, but I just figured it's a lot easier to do it now than if this were to break again and have to do this repair all over again. I'd rather just make 2 passes now. Now this piece that I've welded in between the fork pockets, I want to talk about that for a minute. It seems like a little bit of an oddball piece, I'm aware. And the reason that I chose this piece was really none other than the fact that this is something I had left over from my old squeeze chute project. I made this, it was gonna be like a linkage piece in the body squeeze, I think it was. And for some reason I didn't like it, or the holes weren't right, or I don't remember why I didn't end up using it, why I ended up making another one. But I've been hanging on to this piece for several years, and it was just about the right length to fit in here, and that's why I used it. I really don't need these holes or these other features that this has, but this was just handy. So the welds look strong. Everything kind of looks straight, but let's put the straight edge on it and see how straight it actually is. And I'm using the term straight edge very loosely. I mean, I think this is pretty straight. So straight enough for what we're doing today. Actually, before I talked about using the heat from the weld to pull these out, I actually pulled it a little bit too far on this one. I've got a slight gap on this side. It's not bad, but it is just a hair, and I thought I'd point it out. And the next plane that I've been kind of monitoring throughout this is this plate and this plate. So this would be like the back of where the forks slide in here. And yes, it should be the same as the actual fork pockets, but we don't actually know that this is straight and true. According to my straight edge, it is pretty much the same. So actually this looks a little bit better on this side. So all in all, far straighter than it was, and possibly just as straight or maybe even better than it was when it was brand new. Okay, let's flip this thing over now that the fork pockets are as good as they're gonna get. Let's flip this over and address the loader quick attach. Depth perception on the camera is not always perfect, but this plate right here, this should be flat, and it's not. You can see this tab right here is bent way up like that. Same thing on the other side. So somehow I need to figure out how I'm gonna straighten this, and then what I might end up doing is I might weld a plate on the bottom of that to make it stronger so that this can't happen again. Welding the plate is easy. Getting that straight may not be, but I've got an idea. Yeah, let's just try it. I'll just show you what I'm gonna do. First, we need this anvil. Oh boy! I think you kind of get the idea what I'm going at here. Just a matter of pounding the tar out of it until it's straight, or at least straight enough. And this side that I'm starting on is not as bad. Usually I start with the harder things first, because then the easier things seem all that much easier. But in this case, we're just gonna go at it and see if this even works. And if it does work on this side, then it should work on the other side too. I think this will work. It's almost like that paint doesn't want to be pounded on. That actually looks pretty good. Well, I've got these little plates cut out, clamped on here, and everything's looking pretty good. I'm gonna weld these on, thereby doubling the thickness of this metal and hopefully preventing any future failures. To weld these plates on, I'm gonna first come through here with the MIG welder and tack these things in place and make sure that I'm happy with the placement and all that. And then I'm gonna come back and I'll finish welding them with some 3/32 70/18. The reason that I'm not gonna use 1/8 inch is because I want my beads to be a little bit smaller. So around these pockets here where the lock pins come through, I just don't want to risk the weld interfering with that. I don't think that it would anyway, but a 3/32 rod makes a plenty strong enough weld for what we're doing here. It's gonna be a little hot. One last thing that I want to do before I call this done is, and actually I debated whether or not to even bother filming this because it doesn't really seem that exciting to me, but it is the kind of thing that if I don't film, a lot of people are gonna drop in the comments and tell me that I should have done this. So what that is on the back side of this plate where I cut the welds out on those mounting pockets, I'm gonna weld the back side up as well, just because you know, the weld on the front side penetrated good, but you still have this sort of, I don't know, gap. I mean, you can tell right where I cut it, basically, is what I'm getting at. So I want to fill that in with weld because I feel like that is a potential spot where a crack could start to develop. So we'll go ahead and weld those in, and then I'll have to come back with the flap wheel and grind them smooth because this side of the plate needs to stay flat because that is where the quick attach on the loader of the tractor or skid steer or whatever I use to run this thing, that's where it's going to attach. Now that this is all put back together, I can do some quality checks and see how straight I actually got it. The biggest thing that I'm worried about is that these forks are in line with each other, because the way it was before with that back plate being tweaked so bad, I don't remember which fork it was, but one of them was up and the other one was down. So as you can imagine, if you're trying to pick up a pallet that is flat, having forks that are offset like that's just not going to work. So just by eyeballing them, they look like close enough to work with. I mean, that's it right there. What puzzles me is the fact that the mounting plate on these pallet forks was all messed up. I mean, you guys saw it. But the forks themselves are actually really straight. I don't know what event transpired to put this in the condition that it was in, but I have to assume that whatever they were doing with it, they weren't using the forks, because the forks are essentially undamaged. All the damage was to the back plate, and I have to feel like the forks would go first in an event like that. So I don't know, I may have to get the story from Jeremy, see what he was actually doing to tweak this thing so bad. But this has got plenty of life in it now. I can't wait to use them. For this repair, I used pretty much exclusively 70/18 rods, some 1/8 inch, some 3/32. You guys saw me do some tacking with the MIG welder. And the only reason for that is 7018 doesn't restart as good as some other rods do. So if you're just, you know, hitting a bunch of spots real quick to tack things in place, the MIG welder is much faster and more efficient for that. My favorite 7018 rod is the Lincoln Excalibur rod, but if you've ever priced that out, it is not cheap. There's a reason. I mean, it's good, but you got to pay for it. I have found that Hobart rod or Radnor rod is almost as good. Hobart rod is like half the price of Lincoln Excalibur, and I feel like it welds almost as nice. Close enough to where it's really hard to justify spending that extra money on the Excalibur rod. My hope would be that from this video, somebody out there watching is inspired to go drag a piece of junk out of their yard that they've been wanting to fix for a while and just get in the shop and do it. I've been putting this off for a while and I've been working on it now. Actually, this video has been shot over like 3 days, not full days, but just a couple hours here, a couple hours there. But with all that being said and done now, I've got a nice set of pallet forks. Thanks for hanging out in the shop with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.